All right, we are live on TikTok, except we have only me for some reason. We're having some technical difficulties trying to get Jackie to join here. So we're going to cross our fingers and see if she can find her way on here through TikTok directly. So apologize. I know there's probably lines of people here waiting to get in or not, but we'll see. Trying to see if we can find a way to get her in here because for some reason it is not cooperating this time. So we're going to do our best to see if we can get her in here and see what happens with that. But I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that. We may have to try again here. Let's see. This looks like Jackie is live, but Jackie is not actually on screen with us. We are live on her account, but I think our streaming software is giving us a little bit of trouble here, allowing her to come on in. So we'll have to see if she can find a way to get in here. Let's see. Well, this is fun. I don't know if anybody is jumping on here yet or not. I seem to be on Jackie's feed. I'm on my feed, but I do not have my partner in crime here. So this is really fun. And I'm not sure how we can get her on here. Yeah, we're having some struggles here. It'd be kind of a boring session if I'm just on here talking to myself. And just see if we can somehow get Jackie invited. Does not seem like there's an easy way to get her invited. Try any little tricks that we can here. No. Let's see here. I'm not seeing any way to get Jackie added on here. Yeah, this is not going as planned. You're definitely having some technical difficulties in not being able to get Jackie to join. Let me try one thing here. Don't know if this can work. This is not a good thing. We're supposed to have two people on here trying to have a good conversation, but it does not appear that we are going to be able to make this work. Let's see. See if that one works. I don't know. It's kind of crazy here. For some reason, our system is not cooperating and we cannot get Jackie on. Now we have a different link. See if we can get her to come on. Hey, I think we might actually have a guest here. Holy cow, you're here.
Let me disconnect on the other one.
I think it was somehow the streaming software was generating a link that made no sense. It was not like a link to the studio. It looked like it was a link to the event or something. I don't know. Kind of weird.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I'm so glad that you're joining me today because that was going to be freaking boring as hell watching me talk to myself. I mean, I wouldn't want to watch that. I don't know about anybody else want to watch that.
It's my birthday. Happy birthday, Jean. Well,
You
um,
you have some people commenting because I can't see anything.
I can see it. It says it's my birthday. So happy birthday, Jean. Um, well, I'm glad we made it. I'm glad we're here. We're ready to get started. So just know that, again, this is a space for you to ask all of the real estate questions that you have, all of the financing questions. We are here to answer those for you. So feel free to ask away, write it in the comments, send us a message. We're going to be looking at our notifications on the app just to make sure that we're answering all of your questions. All right.
We're going to do our
Brian,
best. You don't make too many promises there because so far this
you
hasn't
haven't
worked
seen
out
it?
as planned.
Okay, actually, let me check my TikTok just to make sure I'm actually getting. Okay, I'm not seeing any notifications on TikTok, but I can see on the screen. Whoever commented it's my birthday, I saw that on the screen. So happy birthday. We're here for you. We're
That's why it's on YouTube. That's a YouTube viewer. We're on YouTube and TikTok today.
got it. Okay. So
So yes,
are you able to see the direct messages on YouTube?
we can see it on the screen on YouTube. I am not seeing any messages on TikTok though. I have your account. I'm viewing your account, and then I'm trying to watch my account, I believe, in the studio, but I don't see any comments there yet. So maybe we just don't have any comments on TikTok yet. That is entirely possible. If people
Okay.
jumped on a few minutes after 5, we weren't here. And then when they
I
jumped on a
know.
few more minutes after 5, they just saw me looking around like I don't know what's going on because I didn't know what was going on.
I don't know either. We rehearse this. We try to do this. We meet for starting this, and this happens. But here we are, trying to make the best of it, trying to work with what we have. So, again, ask away. Any questions that you have, real estate questions, financing questions, ask away. I do want to start with talking about a specific topic that I've been getting a lot of questions on this past couple of weeks, and that is the new ruling with FHA loans. So, Brian, why don't you get us started with that? Why don't you let us know what's going to happen after May 28th this month with FHA guidelines and who gets financing for FHA?
Okay, so we're going to talk about all those illegal aliens who got FHA loans throughout history, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Okay, so yes, apparently, allegedly, according to some people in the media and the administration, illegal aliens were getting loans for through FHA and for down payment assistance, and that's no longer going to happen. The only problem is they actually never have gotten loans through FHA. So unfortunately, with some of the changes that came about, there's a lot of misinformation that you heard out in the media. And in order to get an FHA loan ever throughout history, you have had to have a legal right to be in the country and a legal right to work. So basically an employment authorization document allowing you to work and have some kind of legal status. So the most common legal status that we saw for the last few years anyway was DACA recipients. but people that under different types of visas also were able to get FHA loans. So probably another one that's been in the news in the last few months is the H-1B visa. There's different visa types where people who are not U.S. citizens are able to come to the United States to work. They get an employment authorization document, says, yes, you're able to work. They get a social security number in order to pay taxes. They have been able to get an FHA loan. Some of those FHA loans are down payment assistance loans. The down payment assistance portion comes on top of the FHA loan. So you got to be able to qualify for the FHA loan, and then they give you the assistance to cover the down payment and sometimes some closing costs on top of that. So you always had to qualify for the FHA loan as the main loan that you get to purchase the home. What's changing at the end of the month on the 28th is that people who are non-permanent resident aliens are not going to be able to get FHA loans after the 28th. So, you have to get under contract to purchase a house before the 28th. You have to be able to submit the contract to the lender. The lender needs to request through the FHA portal a case number, and that case number has to come before May 28th. After that, you will not be able to get an FHA loan. So mainly the DACA recipients are the people that we're most commonly looking at, that we're looking for FHA loans that are going to be impacted by this. Fortunately, they actually can still get loans through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are two other government agencies, as well as other government agency programs like USDA. Those they can still get financed through. And there is some down payment assistance programs that are available with conventional loans. The downside is just that there's more flexibility and there's a little better deal with FHA than there is on conventional loans. So the FHA loan program itself is insured by the government. And so the reason that the administration made the change is because they felt like they didn't want to have government funding being used for non-citizens or non-permanent resident aliens. I think I got that right. So basically, if you have a green card or you're a citizen, you can still get an FHA loan. But if you're not a permanent resident alien or a citizen, they don't want to be using government funds for that. So DACA recipients, if you are thinking about buying a house, do not wait. You've got like roughly 2 weeks left to get under contract on a property, which is okay, because if you start the process of getting pre-qualified, depending on your situation, that could happen same day. And then you can get out looking for properties very quickly after that. And you can usually find something in less than a couple weeks, can't you?
If you're ready, I can find you a house this weekend. And what special promotion do we have going on for our clients, for everybody that's interested and that's listening right now?
Well, let me pull that up and we'll see how your reading skills are, or how your eyes are doing. Let's see here. Here we go.
Ooh, that's tiny, but I think I remember. So it is a credit of up to $699 for a home warranty, and a other credit for that I can't read. I'm sorry.
An appraisal credit.
An appraisal credit for
up to $650.
Up to $650, and this does not apply to down payment assistance, but you can still get the home warranty if you get down payment assistance. You just won't be able to get the appraisal credit. And actually, we do have a question here. And again, everyone that's listening, I do encourage you to ask questions about the financing, ask questions about any real estate related questions that you have. There's no big or small question, ask away. We do have a question right now, and it is the down payment assistance. Are down payment assistance programs only for first-time home buyers?
That's a good question. That is a very common thing that people think, and the answer is no. So there are lots of different down payment assistance programs out there. Some of them do have a requirement that you're a first-time home buyer, but some of them also have other things that make you eligible for that down payment assistance. So the most common other qualification to receive down payment assistance is having income under certain levels. And again, that depends on the program. So there's multiple different levels. There's some of them that are under 80% of the area median income. Some of them go all the way up to 140% of the area median income. Some of them don't have any income limits. A lot of times those ones do require that you have to be a first-time home buyer if they're not going to limit your income. Some other programs actually look at the type of job that you do. So like, for example, first responders and other types of heroes, they may qualify for certain programs. Some other programs look at the area that you're buying in as part of the parameters. So there's just a lot of different programs that are out there. And when you look at all the different programs, what we do is we usually just start with your situation. So if you are thinking about buying a house and you come talk to me, we just look at what are all the parameters of your situation, like what type of job do you have, what is your income, what is your credit, and then based upon that, we'll usually figure out, is there one or two or maybe more different programs that you might be eligible for, and we just look at and see which one's going to be the best one for you. So doesn't matter if you're not a first-time buyer, definitely still inquire. The one thing that I think is common across almost all the programs is if you do currently have a house, then you probably won't be able to get down payment assistance for another one. But if you sold that house at the same time as you were buying another one, then that would usually let you still be eligible to get some of the down payment assistance programs.
All right. Well, again, thank you for that question. If there's any other questions, please feel free to ask away. You can write them in the comments. You can send us a DM. Hopefully, we'll look at it before this call's over. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about the down payment assistance options that are available?
Yeah. So, like in Arizona, a couple of the ones that are local programs that are pretty attractive. One of them just came back and got renewed funding for, I didn't check it today. Do you know how much they're at today? It's called the Home in 5 Platinum program. It's actually a really good program. It has an interest rate that is a little bit below market interest rates, and it gives 4% assistance that is forgivable. So there's no payments required on it, but it's forgivable over a 7-year period on that one. And then that is for Maricopa County only. And then there is another program called Arizona is Home. That one is for basically most of the state except Maricopa and Pima County. So basically if you're in Tucson or Phoenix areas, that's not going to be an eligible program for you. That one also has a slightly below market interest rate loan program. It is a forgivable assistance, no interest, no payments. That one is forgiven after 5 years. And then there's the Home Plus program. That one is actually eligible for FHA and conventional loans. And that one has differing amounts of assistance that are available, and that'll impact the rates. That program has a little higher interest rates on it, and it does have some options for repayment as opposed to just a forgivable down payment assistance loan. So again, depends on your income and your credit to figure out which one's going to be the best for you. I would say a lot of times that Home in 5 Platinum is probably going to be the best if you're in Maricopa County. And then the Arizona is Home is a pretty good program for everybody that's outside of Maricopa County and Pima County.
All right. So yeah, your cities like Florence, Santan Valley, Coolidge, Casa Grande, all of those are included by the Arizona is Home program. Did you or did you not mention, because I'm obviously paying attention, I think I missed it. Did you talk about USDA and VA loans? I know that's a common question that we get all the time, every time we do this.
Related to down payment assistance or just by themselves?
Down payment assistance.
I did not necessarily mention those. So the interesting thing about those programs is that those have zero down. So there is no down payment required on those. So most people don't think of even, asking about down payment assistance for those programs. And I would say that it's, probably not necessary most of the time in this market right now. But what we would look at is what are the interest rates on those options. There will be times where, and it's usually on USDA, I found, where sometimes the down payment assistance interest rate is actually better than the regular USDA loan. And it's because the program that's usually run by the state is actually subsidizing the down payment assistance. So sometimes what they're doing is actually buying you a lower interest rate. So we look at those, and if you actually get a better deal using the down payment assistance, then we would do that. But they generally limit how much you get on those to, I believe it's 2%. So they don't give you a whole lot of assistance to go toward closing costs. And then the VA, I think, has the same limits, but oftentimes I think the VA regular interest rates are better than what I've seen on the down payment assistance ones. But we definitely look at it to see. And just the changing market is also a big factor, because there's more rapid changes on the regular interest rates on the regular VA and USDA programs than there is on the down payment assistance programs. The interest rates on the down payment assistance programs, they don't change very much. They don't change very frequently, I should say. So maybe once a month, we might see a fluctuation in those interest rates. So if the market rates started a quick drop, which can happen in a matter of a day or two, we would definitely be better off on a regular VA or USDA loan. But sometimes if they go up quickly as well, those rates, if they do happen to go over what the USDA and VA down payment assistance programs are, that's where we might find that little point in time where it's a little better to go with the down payment assistance program. But one thing, and I'm sure we haven't gotten a question on this yet, a lot of people don't realize is that you don't necessarily have to use down payment assistance to get your closing costs covered, especially in this market, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, it just depends who you work with. If you work with me, you can be sure that you don't have to rely on down payment assistance to cover some of your closing costs. Me, for instance, my regular ask is about 3% of the purchase price, which in most cases will cover the entirety of your closing costs. And that's going to allow you to either come in with little to no money down if you're using down payment assistance, or if you're doing regular financing, bringing in your down payment, then you don't have to worry about the closing costs. I know that a lot of people rely on down payment assistance programs to cover their closing costs. Even like they have the money for the down payment, but they don't have the money for the closing costs. And that's where we're able to step in as agents to try to negotiate that 3% of the purchase price to try to get you into the home. Right now, there's definitely a ton of options for buyers. There's a lot of flexibility, and there's a lot more that sellers are willing to do as far as negotiating. Homes are not moving as fast as they normally would. So that gives you the upper hand as a buyer. It gives you a ton more options to choose from, and a bigger ability to be able to negotiate more. And that negotiation is not limited to closing costs. It could be closing costs, home warranty, rate buy down to make your payment more affordable, asking for repairs, maybe negotiate the purchase price. There's a lot of negotiating that can be done because sellers are truthfully a little bit more inclined to negotiate and more flexible to do so.
And you can actually get more than that 3% too. Like we've got somebody under contract right now where, how much did you get again?
For who?
It was for Idania.
I actually was able to do close to 4%. It was purchase price 315. We got 11,000.
Yeah, I think it was like 10.5 or 10.2
Yeah.
or somewhere in that range.
Yeah, 10.5. Actually, you're right. It was 10.5. And it was a little bit more than the 3%. So it's not just the 3%, especially with FHA loans. I mean, I've been able to get buyers the whole 6% in concessions. It really just depends on the situation and where you're at, and if you're actually going to be able to benefit from those closing costs. And in most cases, or most instances, when you're not using down payment assistance, you can make your payment more affordable by doing a rate buy down with uh, the additional credits that are not being used for your closing costs. But, and I would say home warranty, but today and today only, just kidding. Today we're offering for everybody that's watching, we're offering the home warranty up to a policy for home warranty up to $699 and a appraisal credit up to $650 with the exception of down payment assistance programs. Um, the appraisal will not be covered with down payment assistance programs, but you'll still get your home warranty. So don't forget, you do have this. All you have to do is take a screenshot, mention the live, and we'll honor this for you. And keep in mind, we want to answer all of your questions. This space is for you. We're here to answer any and all of your real estate related questions, financing, anything that you want to talk about. Except for therapy, you can do that on your own. But real estate related, we're here. So
Wait a
ask
minute.
away.
Are you saying that we don't do therapy for our clients anymore? Like what?
Well, we are therapists, but we won't do it on the live because it will take a little bit longer than we want. But we'll definitely do it on the outside of the live. So if you ever want to talk about anything, give us a call. And if you ever want to buy a home, like please give us a call, message us, text us, email us until you get a hold of us. But you won't have to do all that because we answer.
Yeah, we're not secret agents either. Like you can find us on, obviously you're watching us on these platforms and our contact info is all over the place. So you can find us if you guys are interested in purchasing a home. You know, one thing you brought up too is with, you know, how much concessions that you can get. And I know you know this, but for our veterans out there and active duty service members, a lot of the times, you know, people don't know how much you can get in concessions. Why don't you share how much you can actually get for concessions for our VA borrowers versus what people think?
That sounds like a lender question.
It is, but you're a good agent and you actually know the answer.
Well, I actually was one of the agents that was under the impression before I learned that the limit on VA loans was 4%. And that is actually not accurate. With VA loans, veterans have a huge benefit because that 4% is what they can get after closing costs are paid for. It's not 4% total. So you can get that after your closing costs are paid for. So that means that if we're taking 2 to 3% of the purchase price to cover your closing costs, you can still get an additional 4%. You can get that, and you can cover debts. You can cover your closing costs, do a rate buy down, pay debts. Like if you have any credit card debt that you want to pay off through those concessions, you can do so as well. So this is really good for you veterans. It's definitely a great opportunity. You can get into your home or zero down and also pay some of your debt down so you have less payments a month. So it's definitely good.
So here's where the lender will come in and clean it up a little bit. The 4%. So the very specific details are you can get all the closing costs paid for by the seller. Plus, and you can get an additional 2 points to buy the interest rate down. And then after all that's done, that 4% that Jackie's talking about, that has to be used for debt payoff. So you can't get any cash back. So we're not going to be able to give you money to go fix up the house after you close, but that can be used for paying off debts, like you said. So If you don't have any debts, great, good for you. We can't get you the extra 4%. But if you have a car payment, or you have credit cards or anything, student loans, if you want to pay it all off, you can use that 4%. And just think about it. I mean, $400,000 purchase price, 4%, that's 16 grand that can go to debt payoffs. I mean, that can make a huge difference in somebody's monthly payments and their monthly obligations to be able to set them up with a really affordable cash flow situation with a good interest rate on their mortgage, because they could buy down 2 points, to buy down the interest rate and then pay off a whole bunch of debts with $16,000. Like, that's a pretty sweet deal.
So would you say that veterans benefit from using their VA status to get a VA loan versus getting a traditional financing product like FHA conventional?
Yeah, there's almost no situations where a conventional is going to be better for them than VA. Like, I mean, I can think of one situation maybe where somebody might look at a conventional instead of VA, and that would be somebody that is using their VA loan for a subsequent use, as we call it. So basically, anytime after the first time you use it, and they're not getting any VA disability benefits. There is one fee on the VA loan that can get a little expensive, and that is the VA funding fee. So that would be 3.3% of the loan amount. So if you're getting into a larger loan, like I just closed a VA purchase for $1.5 million yesterday. Okay, well, 3.3% on $1.5 million, I think that was about $46,000 in the funding fee. Now, that he didn't have to pay cash, he had to roll that into his loan. But if he was in a situation where he was putting a large down payment down, well, number one, if he was doing that with a VA loan, that funding fee would go down because it scales down if you're putting down payments down. But that is a situation where somebody might look at that and say, you know what, I'd rather not spend $46,000 in a fee if I have the money to put money down to be able to get into a conventional loan or a conforming loan. They might look at that and say, it might be better if I just go ahead and put the down payment down rather than cost myself an extra, $46,000. So that's maybe about the only situation where I could see somebody, veering away from VA. But aside from that, especially if you have any VA disability benefits, a lot of times veterans will think that you have to be 100% disabled in order to get that funding fee waived. That's not the case. If you just have any VA disability benefits, I mean, it can be a few $100s a month coming in, then you will have a waiver of that funding fee. So now there's no added expense to the VA loan, and you have no mortgage insurance, no down payment, and lower interest rate than a conventional loan. There's definitely no reason to veer away from a VA loan.
All right. Well, thank you for answering that. Again, we want to encourage you to ask more questions. I do see I think that's a question, but I can't see that close. I need to get it close to me.
Let me look too.
So why don't you check, actually? I want to make sure that we're not missing any of your questions. I don't think mine is showing live.
So I have somebody asking a question here. They're asking about, is this a good time to buy a house? So I guess it's just more of a question about the market. Is this a good time to buy? Why don't we let you kind of take that one, and then I'll maybe jump on it afterward, depending upon how much detail you go into.
Okay, so earlier I definitely want to start by saying that it's a good time when you're ready, right? When you're financially ready to make a purchase. Now, I know that a lot of people have the same doubt, whether that's because they think that houses may be going down in value, or maybe because they think the economy is not good and they can't afford the payment. The reality is you still need somewhere to live. you still need a place to live. And that's going to be the case regardless of what happens with the economy, regardless of what happens with home values. You're going to need a place to live no matter what. Now, um, as I was mentioning earlier, this is a great time for buyers to make their move. Why? Because there's a ton of opportunity. There's a ton of options in this market. There is more opportunity and more flexibility for us as agents to be able to negotiate. So, what does that mean for you? That means that I can potentially get you into a home with little to no money down. That means that if you do your own down payment, I can still get you into a home with all closing costs covered. I can get you into a home where you're getting maybe a little bit off the price, negotiating additional things like repairs, like closing costs, um, buying down your rate, again, the home warranty. There's just so many things that you can do in this market because there's so much opportunity. And a lot of people are also in the mentality of should I wait until rates are lower so my payment can be more affordable? But what you fail to realize is that waiting, well, one, like there's a cost of waiting. Number two, if rates are lower, it's a supply and demand. If rates are lower, there's more competition. So there's more buyers entering the market, which means there's less houses to choose from. And if there's more competition, guess what? The being able to negotiate for more is probably not going to be the case. Now, I personally been in that situation. We were actually on the market to purchase in 2021, 2022. I was writing offers left and right, submitting for a lot more than asking price. We started at 30,000, we went 40, 50, 60, 70,000, 80,000 over asking price, and still not getting anywhere. We were so desperate during that time because this was a time when rates were lower that I remember there was listings that would come up on the market. I would check like every 5 minutes, kind of like when you're waiting for a product to launch. I would check and check and check, and then a house would come on the market, and then I would just write an offer without even looking at it. I would just look at the pictures. Okay, I like it here. And at this time, there was no inspections, no appraisals. I don't care what the appraisal is, I'll pay you for it. So if the appraisal is $20,000 under asking, I'm paying you. I need somewhere to live. So and that was a situation back then. And we just couldn't get into a home. The market was so competitive that we couldn't get into a home because it didn't matter how much more we offered and what things we let go of, like an inspection that is so important to do. Like we just could not get into a home. So then fast forward, we waited until uh, the end of like mid towards the end of 2022, and that's when rates started changing. Rates started changing in 2022. Rates started rising, right? So that created a little bit of a stagnation in the market. So the market wasn't moving as fast as it was before. So then we gave it another shot and we bought our home. We went under contract December of 2022. We closed January of 2023. And we were actually able to purchase for about $100,000 less than our original budget. I was able to negotiate all closing costs. All the closing costs were paid for. I negotiated some of the appliances that were at the house, and I got a bathroom. Like it, I wanted the spa outside, like the like the spa that was like the portable spa, and I was able to get all of that when before I was offering more. I was offering a lot more. I wasn't doing any inspections. I wasn't asking for anything. I was just here's my money. I don't care what the home is like. I just want a house. And that's how it is. With that, you wait, and we waited just because we couldn't get into anything, not because we didn't want to. We just couldn't get into anything. But while we waited, rates were low and the market was competitive, but we still had to pay for somewhere to live. We were paying over $2,000 in rent for somewhere to live, and at the time, this was 2 years ago, rents are higher now for the kind of house that we live at now. And So like nothing changed because we didn't buy. We still had to look for somewhere to live. We just didn't have anywhere to go. We had no option but to keep renting because the market was so competitive. So when I say like this is a great opportunity to buy, I mean it. I think it's a great opportunity. We bought in this market and that we know that rates are temporary. And I hate to sound cliche, but marry the house, date the ring, right? We actually we are waiting to refinance out of our rate, but we already have the deal, we already have the price, and we already have equity in our house that we were able to build in this last 2 years. And there's options too for rates. There's options that there's temporary options that you can do for rates that are going to allow your payment to be more affordable for the first couple of years until you can refinance your house. So I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to let Brian take over and explain a little bit on the rates, what I was referring to as far as there's options, and also like what are your thoughts on that question? Like, is it a good time to buy or not?
Yeah, I can obviously talk about this a lot, but I also want to encourage you guys, if you're on the live, make sure you put in your questions, comment with your questions so we can make sure that we field your questions. But as far as the one about is it a good time? You know, obviously the thing that you first said is it has to be right for you financially. So let me just say really quick, if you're thinking about buying, but then your plan is to probably sell within a year or two, then I would probably say no, don't bother trying to buy, because there's cost involved with selling a house, and it's going to be hard with the projected inflation rates, or not inflation, home appreciation rates being a little bit above 4%. You know, if you get that in 2 years, that's 8%. And then if you're going to spend 5 to 6% in sales compensation to sell the house, and then maybe you have to pay some closing costs, you know, if you're going to be in a house for a year, it's probably not a great financial decision. So if you're in that boat, probably just, you know, look to rent. If you're thinking, you know, 2 years or longer, then it's probably worth taking a look at. And I totally agree that I think some people forget about the fact that you got to live somewhere and you're going to spend money on something. Like, that's a really good point. I had somebody ask, I think it was last week, you know, well, I'm not sure about doing this. What if I lose my job or whatever? Okay, well, what's going to happen if you're renting and you lose your job? Okay, are you going to have trouble being able to afford your rent and being able to stay in the house that you're in? Okay, well, maybe not. So you're going to have to figure out something else. Well, what would that mean if you have a house? You know, you still have a place to live. What's going to happen? Okay, would you have to go downsize and get something smaller? Okay, maybe that, you know, might happen. Do you have to move in with family? You know, could you turn your house into a rental property and put tenants in there and be able to afford it? Like, you're going to still adapt and figure something out either way. So take that into consideration. Don't just automatically assume because maybe there's something in the future that may cause you to not be able to afford the house that you're living in. I mean, whether you're renting or owning, you're going to still face that same situation. So deal with the situation as it is. So from the economy standpoint, there's definitely a lot of differences of opinion about what's happening with the economy. Without getting into all the politics too far, I think one of the things that people have to be aware of is that anything that you're listening to in the news media, I would just say turn it off, stop listening, because all they're after is they're after eyeballs and clicks, and they get hysterical about everything. Even the stock market, you know, the stock market, like, I just feel like the traders on Wall Street, they're like glorified gamblers, like, who have an addiction to the gambling problem that they have, because what they're doing is they're just betting on what they think is going to happen next. Like, they could make a bunch of money from something happening from one day to the next in the stock market. But most people that are investing money in the stock market through IRAs and 401ks and things like that, it's for the long haul. And, you know, it's, 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So any of the stuff that you hear about the stock market going up and down, unless you're planning on liquidating your money right away, which would be pretty much a terrible decision if the stock market is down, then don't worry about all that, chaos that people are talking about. I mean, fact of the matter is, we heard about how the stock market was crashing after the tariffs were announced at the beginning of April. Where are we today? We're back over where we were at the beginning of April, and actually higher than we've been since March. Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't know how you can sneeze silently. Like, I'm incapable of that.
I got allergic to your talk. Like, tariffs.
The tariff talk, yeah, that's like develops an allergy. But I mean, realistically, all that stuff, just kind of ignore it. Like, you got to just live your life and figure out, what do I need to do? Do I want to keep paying rent? Or do I want to actually be putting that money towards something that's going to build equity? I can't tell if that was a sneeze, but bless you, it was. So, I mean, think about whatever your life circumstances are and figure out, is it better for you to be owning and building some equity in something, or is it better for you to be renting? It's probably going to be less expensive to rent, to be honest, on a monthly payment than it is to own. But what I always tell people to think about is, let's say, and I'm just going to make up some numbers here, but let's say you would spend $500 more a month to own a house than it would cost you to rent. So first question is, can you afford the $500? Okay. If you can't, then
no. First question is, do you get Starbucks every day?
Yeah, that's probably
that answers question number 2.
That's probably the best first question. Yeah. Are you eating out a lot? Are you going out and buying a 12-pack of beer every day or two? Like, are you, getting Starbucks and coffee? Like, that is definitely a legit question. And we can talk about some of the numbers on that. But, look at it. Can you afford the $500 difference? Okay. And then look at that as an investment. Okay. So what could I do with that $500? Could I be putting that into some type of investment? Okay. Well, if you're putting $500 into an investment, what kind of rate of return are you earning on that? And again, I'm just going to use really simple numbers because I'm not going to calculate this all out. But if you put $500 a month into something, at the end of a year, you would have put $6,000 away. Let's just say you made 10% overall on that money after a year, which would be much higher than 10% annualized, because that money, you didn't put $6,000 in at the beginning, you put $6,000 in cumulatively. But let's just say that turned into a 10% gain. You made $600. Okay, cool. What if you put that $500 a month into a mortgage payment that you're buying, let's say, a $400,000 house, and that $400,000 house goes up, I'm going to, again, use round numbers, 5%. So that house goes up by $20,000 for the extra $500 a month that you're putting in there. Obviously, you're putting more than $500, but the alternative was to save that $500 and put it into an investment account and pay rent. So what is the difference? Well, for that extra $500 a month, instead of making $600 by the end of the year by putting it into an investment account, you put it into your mortgage payment. That $500 a month and $6,000 throughout a year turns into $20,000 gain in appreciation. That is a heck of a lot better return on your money than putting it into an investment account and paying somebody else's mortgage by being a renter. So I think that's the big picture that people need to think about. So it's a little more than, just what can you afford? It's like, can you really afford not to be putting money toward your own equity in something like real estate? And then it comes down to, okay, well, you were talking about, like, what are you currently spending money on that could actually be going toward a home purchase? Like, you mentioned Starbucks. Like, how much do people spend? Or maybe we should just ask, how much did Jackie spend on, on Starbucks and things like that?
Well, that just depends. Normally, though, coffee is about $7 a cup of coffee. Like, I'm talking about your medium-sized coffee. It's like $6-7. So if you're eating or getting coffee once a day, I mean, you can do the math. You know, don't shame me.
You're going to make me do the math for you, huh?
Yes. So I mean that's like what it could be from anywhere from $35 to $50 a week, depending on if you're just getting coffee or if you're getting coffee and a pastry, and it turns into $12 a day. $12 a day times 5 days, then that's 60. Then it's 4 weeks out of the month, and then you're almost spending $300 a month. That's 240, and that's just if you're getting the bare minimum. Now, if you're getting coffee multiple times a day, and that's also not including the times that you're out and spending $15 on a margarita,
Or
because
yeah,
those
just
things are so
eating out
expensive.
for lunch, going out and getting, DoorDash for your dinner because you're too lazy to get in your car and go to the store and either just buy it yourself or whatever. Like, it adds up so fast. I mean, I can practically guarantee that if you're living that kind of lifestyle, you're probably blowing $500 a month easy on just stuff that you don't need to be spending money on. So, like, is it really infringing on your lifestyle all that much to make those kind of like minor little changes to be able to invest in your future and be able to buy a house? Like, not really. And you
Oh,
didn't ask me about that necessarily, but like, you wanted to know about interest rate buy downs too. I don't know if you want to check to see if there's any other questions, but I can definitely talk about interest rate buy downs too. While you're looking, I'll talk about interest rate buy downs. So temporary interest rate buy downs, you brought that up, is something that's really popular because basically what happens is you get a good real estate agent who can negotiate on your behalf to get the seller to give you money to temporarily buy down the interest rate. The most popular one is what we call a 2-1 buy down. And that's basically, and again, I'm going to use round numbers. Let's just say interest rates for today were 7, which they're not, they're lower than that. But let's say they were 7. Then what would happen is during the first year, your payments would be calculated as if the interest rate was 5%. And then in the second year, so that's 2% reduction. That's where the 2-1 comes from. The second year, it's 1% below the note rate of 7. So you get payments calculated at 6% during the second year. Now, the reason that this is really popular because it gives you the ability to have reduced payments while we're in a time of higher interest rates. And hopefully what happens is somewhere in the next 2 years, we're in a position where interest rates are low enough to be able to refinance into a lower rate for the long term. And if we look back at like the last 20 years of where interest rates have been, they've hovered in the 4s and 5s. So being in the mid 6s right now, it's elevated. And whether or not that's going to come down, people will argue about that. Most economists believe that rates will come down, but they kind of think it's going to be high 5s, low 6s, and nobody really knows how soon that's going to be. Maybe a year, maybe within 2 years. So if you can temporarily get those interest rates and those payments lower and get the seller to pay for it, it gives you that breathing room to maybe adapt a little bit on your lifestyle, and how much you're spending in other things. It helps you to be able to have some relief. And maybe for some people, they're going to have career advancements and pay increases over the next couple of years that would help them adapt to payments going higher after that year or two. So that temporary interest rate buy down is really great because the money that it takes to buy the interest rate down, it basically stays in sort of a separate account. They call it a subsidy account with the mortgage company. And if you refinance earlier than 2 years, whatever money is left in that account that they didn't use to subsidize your payments, that actually gets applied to the balance on the loan when you go to refinance it. So you never lose the money that's used to buy down the interest rate. You can actually end up with a lower balance to do your refinance on if you do it less than 2 years. So really good program to help give some temporary payment relief to people to make things a little bit more affordable while interest rates are a little bit higher.
I actually did one myself. I did a 2-1 buy down.
Nice.
Obviously, you just explained what that is, but I got the seller to pay for it. So not only did they pay for my closing costs, but they also paid for that buy down that allowed me to do 2% off the first year 1%, the second year, and now we're third year. We're into the regular rate. So I'm eagerly waiting to refinance.
Yeah, I mean it's been a big help for a lot of people, and I actually just had somebody that we closed on today, this morning, so early. I think it feels like it was yesterday, where he bought a new build and he got $25,000 from the builder to go toward all of his costs, and he used about $11,000 on his closing costs, and he used $14,000 for a temporary interest rate buy down. But the interest rate that he had from the builder was 7.375, and before he made his first payment on his new loan, we were able to get him locked in at 6.625. Obviously, these rates are not guaranteed for anybody else. This is just an experience that happened for a client. But he got a 0.75% lower interest rate, and all of that $14,000, it was applied to his principal balance. So in the course of the refinance, he was able to not make his first payment on his original loan May 1st, and then he doesn't have to make a June 1st payment because we're closing in May, so his first payment comes July. So he would have been spending about a little over $9,000 in monthly payments the beginning of May and June had he not refinanced. So he was able to keep almost $10,000 in his pocket, and then he was getting another $1,200 back in cash at closing, and then he'll get another about $800 in a refund on his escrow accounts for his taxes and insurance. So he's able to get about $12,000 roughly of the $14,000 that was going toward his temporary interest rate buy down. He was able to sort of get that money back in his hands, or keep it in his hands, and get a 0.75% lower rate, which I think it was almost $300 a month lower payments. And this is all just by being able to refinance at a little bit lower rate and utilizing that money from the temporary interest rate buy down. So there's a lot of different ways to use it. So even if people are buying new houses, they should definitely still talk to us. Sometimes those builders buy down the interest rates permanently, and we can't touch that, and that's a good deal. They should take it. But if that's not what they're doing, there's other ways that we can utilize that money to people's best advantage.
All right. Well, thank you for the explanation. Congratulations on the closing. We are a little bit past 6.
That's only because we were super late today.
That's what I was going to ask. Are we going to make up for the lost time? Or?
Well, why don't we check and see real quick if we have any other questions come in. If we don't have any other questions, then we can wrap it up for today. But just so people know too, we are doing this every other week on TikTok and YouTube. And we are on the alternating weeks. We are going on Facebook and Instagram, so that regardless of the platform that you like to watch on, you can catch us every week on Real Talk Tuesdays. And aside from that, I thought you were offering like something else special besides the $700 home warranty and $650 toward an appraisal. Didn't you like want to offer people something else since we do this on Tuesdays?
Cookies and tacos.
Cookies and tacos too. What a deal. So if you guys do end up purchasing a home with Jackie and I, then you can get, as long as you're not doing down payment assistance, we can't do the appraisal credit on that one. But for anything else, you can get $650 toward an appraisal, $700 toward a home warranty, and tacos and cookies. And there's not a better deal than that anywhere else.
Not whatsoever.
Well, cool. Did you find any other questions?
I did not.
We're good. We got everything covered?
I think so. Did you check yours?
All my screens, I do not see any. So I think we are good.
Well, we answered everything. That means we did great.
Awesome. Well, then I appreciate you finding your way through here. Sorry for all the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Probably user error.
Yeah, it probably was, honestly.
I know it's probably me this time.
Maybe you broke it. Well,
Awesome.
I'll
Well,
see
then
you
I guess we'll see you
next
next Tuesday.
All right.